G'day, it's your old mate Matthew here. Welcome to the Yarnsman podcast. Today we have Dominic Huxley, not Dominic Douglas as I call him in the interview. We discuss his journey to being an unhinged mountaineer and finding his group of savages. I really like the mindset of fuck it, buy the ticket and figure it out. And we also talk about the journey to try and recreate the steps of Merv English and Peter Hillary on Ama Dablam in Nepal, and how that didn't quite work out first time round, but they're planning to do it again. Really interesting yarn, really inspiring, and hope you enjoy it. Hello and welcome to the Yarnsman podcast. Today we have Dominic Douglas. He describes himself as an unhinged mountaineer and a mental health advocate. Hi Dominic, how are you, mate?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. It's good to be here. Good to be back in Christchurch.
Cool. Well, let's dive into it. Before we get into you talking about the group of savages that you hang out with, what have you struggled with in the last week?
So that's a good question. One that I should definitely have anticipated. I think in the last week, the big thing for me is actually just finding time for myself. I've been traveling quite a bit and helping out my partner who had her first stab at a ultramarathon race up in Tarawera. So I've sort of been running around for other people and probably saying yes to a lot more things and not getting enough sleep, and then just not filling my own cup. So yeah, as I'm sure you're aware, that's not a good thing long term.
Well, what do you want to work on in the next week?
Just getting back to basics, so getting that sleep right. I'm a person that I am at my absolute best probably when I have about 9 hours of sleep. I do a lot of training, so I need that recovery time, also quiet time, eating right. So yeah, getting the good calories in and not being a bit lazy and getting a pizza here and there doesn't make me feel very good. So yeah, just focusing on the basics, mate.
As you're a mountaineer and you like to do a lot of extreme things, you must be quite good at getting to sleep, eh? Do you have, when you're on the side of a mountain, hanging off the side of a mountain in a tent or whatever you call it, you must have some techniques for getting to sleep quickly.
You know what? If you're putting in those sort of 10, 12 hour and sometimes even up to sort of like 24-hour days on the mountain, you're so worked, just physically and mentally. Sleep's pretty easy to come by, so I actually have my best sleeps on the mountain in an uncomfortable place. I actually struggle to sleep quite a bit in a bed. It's,
right.
I don't know what it is. I struggle here, so I actually have to take sleep aids. So whether it's magnesium, and to the point where, if I'm really, really busy and not looking after myself with food training, I'll probably have to have half a Zopiclone, which is not a very good long-term strategy.
Right. Do you think that comes from, you're now conditioned to really put your body through the ringer, and if you're not doing that, you're not getting a good enough sleep?
You know what? I'd love to blame that. I just sort of start overthinking, I think, and then I like a lot of people. You want to do you want to be the best version of yourself. You want to do the best thing for other people, and it's that perfectionist mindset sometimes, which can keep you up, and perfection's not achievable. So
I understand that.
Yeah, but it always seems to pop up just before I want to go to bed.
What are you proud of?
I am right now. I'm incredibly proud of my partner Sylv for absolutely crushing her first race, which is a part of the UTMB World Series. It's really cool to see someone, and we were talking about this earlier, that may not naturally sort of be a runner, or they look at people who do ultra marathons, 100k, 180k, and they're like, geez, that's impossible, and have that self-doubt. And I guess to see her journey as someone that I'm obviously very close to, and then to actually go out and just crush it, and then the penny dropped halfway through the race, she realised, she's like, oh shit, I can do this. And not just I can do this, but naturally she has the biomechanics. She's very tall for a girl. She's about 5'10". She has disproportionate legs, so her legs are a lot longer. So it means her gait is actually perfect for running. she absolutely smashed it, and then realised like, oh geez, I can actually do this and get a good placing. So yeah, that's probably what I'm most proud of this week.
Was that a sort of a condition of the relationship, or have you been eating at her to come out running with you?
Yeah, look, I've definitely taken her for a lot of training, and I'm a pretty black and white person, as you probably know quite well, Matt. I don't really take shit in training. I'm just like, we're here to train. It doesn't matter that she's my partner. Like, it's my time, it's her time, so we've got to use it to the best of our ability. And then we definitely analyse, like, what went well in the training session, what didn't go well, Was it, were you cramping up, so you need more salts? Were you too dry, didn't have enough water, you didn't have enough fuel? What's going on? And just doing that right preparation. And, I'm like this with everyone. I'm like, the only person that's going to care at the end of the race or get frustrated is yourself, because you knew you could do better. So put it all on the line and do it properly. So, yeah, there's definitely been some heated conversations in training, but again, she's absolutely smashed it. She's gone. She works at the hospital. She puts in massive days, which can be quite stressful, as you can imagine, in that environment, and then comes up to the mountains with me and goes running. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is cool. What gives you hope?
What gives me hope? That there's just savages out there that want to do cool stuff. Those daydreamers are probably what you call them.
Yeah, I was going to say, do we have another definition of savages, but savage daydreamers that actually get shit done?
Yeah, like a lot of people talk, they go, oh, I wish I could do this, or I wish I could do that, and it's like, well, you can. Like, buy the ticket, figure it out, fuck it. If it's hard, you should probably do it. It's not easy. It's easy to go, oh, I want to do that, but I'm too tired, or work's frustrating, or oh, you know what, I'm hungover because I had too many beers. Like, if you had too many beers, you've got actually more of a reason to get up and go and do something, because you've got to pay the price.
Or what you said earlier, you've got to earn those. You got to earn your hangover.
You got to earn your hangover, and then you learn pretty quickly, maybe not to have that fifth or sixth beer.
So, mate, I wanted to dive into your recent expedition. So perhaps if we start with a bit of a background to it, with the retracing, the steps of previous mountaineers.
Yeah. So it actually seems like such a long time ago now. So quite a bit's happened since then. But the last time we talked, I was getting ready to fly over to Nepal and climb a mountain called Ama Dablam, and I was doing that in collaboration with Movember to really, I guess, do something big, and then also have a conversation about men's mental health, and also setting big goals and just going after it full throttle. So went over there, everything was going really, really well, climbing well, setting up all the camps, weather was perfect. Actually couldn't have asked for better weather, to be honest. It was a great start to the season. And then, the stupidest miscalculation on the way back from an acclimatization climb, I caught a crampon and tripped over and actually fell a few meters down and landed on my right wrist and broke it in two places. So,
Bugger.
Bugger. At the end of the day, so it was a bit of a letdown, but at the same time a good trip and just an excuse to go back.
And so the whole idea of the expedition was to do the walk, and then was it to have a yarn with Peter Hillary afterwards to talk about their experience? Because did they have to cut someone off a rope or something when they'd done it? Is that what the deal was?
Yeah. So I think sort of like top line, the whole idea is to sort of take a film the whole trip, the ups and the downs, the self-doubt, and all these conversations that like blokes and actually everyone in general, it's not just limited to blokes, have in their life, where they go sometimes like, oh shit, I can't do this, or I don't feel like doing this, and just to, I guess, like normalise that. Appreciate it's at that sort of extreme level, but yeah, I've got a bit of a connection in that space as well. My partner's dad is an old school New Zealand mountaineer, a very accomplished New Zealand mountaineer who's done just some really fucking cool shit down in the Darrens, throwing up new lines, also climbing through the Himalayas. And he had a famous expedition over to Ama Dablam with a bloke called Peter Hillary and a few other people. They were going to they were throwing up a new route on the west face of Ama Dablam. Unfortunately, that climb ended poorly with one person on the team actually dying on the trip. And then subsequently a book was written by Peter called A Sunny Day in the Himalayas. Mountaineering humour can be quite dark at times, so the title is interesting. But one of the ideas was to sit down with both Merv and Peter after the expedition and sort of parallel them about, what was it like, sort of, I guess, climbing in that era, the equipment, also what their experience was and how it impacted them over the years, and obviously the change in the equipment, the technology, the climbing styles, and also the change in the approach to mental health. So still on the cards, just it's going to be about 10 months later than expected, that interview.
How do you feel about the term successful failure? I mean, it's still a work in progress, right?
I think my whole life is a successful failure. Look, it's all part of the process. If you'd asked me, I think it was the 2nd of November, I broke my wrist. If you'd asked me sort of that day, I would have probably given you a different answer, particularly because I actually had to walk out for 2 days with all my stuff with a broken wrist because the insurance company was playing silly buggers. So I had to walk all the way out, so I was quite fucked off. But yeah, with a bit of reflection, it was actually a really good expedition. We figured out that we could operate by carrying all our own stuff climbing at a very high level, at a very high altitude, and it just sort of wasn't our year and test our patience. So I think that's a pretty apt description, actually.
Good. Well, I think it's good that there's, it's all part of the process of learning, and you obviously smash it. Well, I hope you smash it next time. Thinking about, connection and communication, how do you determine who to have on your team and forming this group of savages?
I think, the big thing is to separate out people which, I guess, talk about things versus the people which actually go out and get stuck in. And we were talking about this earlier. I met I'm actually a really good mate of mine now, a guy called Shell, who's a really good photographer and videographer. And we met when we were doing some filming for Movember, and he got in touch with me when I was back and just said, hey, essentially, is there any chance I can come and do the expedition with you again in October? And I went, I better test out to see if this bloke's for real. So I went, hey, there's a cracking weather window for Mount Aspiring. What are you doing in a day or two? Do you want to come? I didn't expect him to message me back, and I got a text message back saying, when do you need me down there? And long story short, I think about 24 hours later, I picked him up from Queenstown Airport and took him over and made him climb Mount Aspiring with me, and the poor bugger had never been on a mountain before. So he was definitely a shoo-in for the team. So to answer your question, the baptism of fire is usually how we figure out who to bring.
Oh, I love that. Is there any way you could take that down to the everyday man of wanting to have a crack? Because, I mean, talking to you, I'm always so inspired, and it's like, oh, I'd love to do these things, but my body's not capable, or how do I, how could I go and do this, or how could anyone sort of start to climb a mountain or anything for that matter?
Yeah, so this is a good one, eh? When I look at the people that I'm most inspired by, they are operating at a level which I can't even fathom, right? But they inspire me just to get out there and do it and not come up with any excuses. So the best advice I can give to people is there's always going to be someone better. There's always going to be someone stronger, faster, smarter. Once you realize that and sit on it, whatever you want to do, just go fuck it and buy the ticket and figure it out. Because the only person that's holding you back is you. Like, if you want to run a marathon and you've never run anything in your life, walk around the block. And then the next day, walk around 2 blocks. And the day after, run around 3 blocks. And then if you do it long enough and you're consistent, you'll be able to run a marathon. But if all you do is talk about it, you're never going to be able to run a marathon. And anyone who gives you shit about it, or anyone who you might perceive as being in the know or better and they don't support you, they're dickheads, so why look up to them? Just go out and do it. The only excuse you've got is you holding yourself back.
I love that. How did you get into, the mountaineering, the ultra marathons and things like that?
I think people who start doing mountaineering or ultra marathons or those big sort of endurance sports, they're unhinged, and we've spoken about this, but a lot of the times they're running away from something or trying to prove something. So for me, I got into it because my parents split up, and that was a pretty shitty time. My dad, I literally remember this. He actually walked in, I was watching TV, and he weirdly put his hand on my shoulder, and then he left the house, and then he buggered off to Australia to chase some job and shacked up with this new girl. I don't really know what the issue was with my parents. I've never really asked, to be honest with you, because it's not really any of my business. And then obviously my mum was pretty gutted about that and had to do probably a bit of internal work on herself, as you can imagine. She was a little bit closer to my sister, and I just sort of felt alone and went, well, running helps me kind of deal with, I guess, my anger at the time, and then it helped me really deal with thinking about the world and my frustrations. And then climbing was just a goal. It was like, well, that's big and scary, so I might do that to take my mind off it. And then it just snowballed from there, and you have to sort of find your community and you find that connection with people. And a lot of endurance people, and I've just come from the Tarawera Ultra Marathon, which is one of those big UTMB races, and what you see there is this culture of acceptance. It doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, whether it's your first ultra or you're one of the best in the world, of which there are many there. There are people finishing 160k in 14 hours and some finishing it in 32 hours, and there's still a crowd of unhinged people cheering you on, and they're so fully stoked to be there. So yeah, for me, that was, I guess, the catalyst, and then it was just fun, man.
There's an interesting thing with the chasing, whether it be running, whatever vice you choose, and this, we can call this a vice. What do you think of the word happiness or contented? If you're always chasing and you're always looking for, how do you kind of balance that one in your head?
You know what? If you'd asked me that question a year ago, it'd be a very different answer. I'd say that I was pretty happy. I've been fortunate enough to climb all around the world and do some things which I could certainly never dream of when I was younger. I would say, oh yeah, I'm pretty happy. I've sort of done that and then managed to parlay that into an okay career in the corporate world, even though I didn't fit that mold, and then later decided I definitely didn't fit that mold, and maybe I should look elsewhere. But when it comes to contented, I didn't truly understand that until I really met my partner, my now fiance, and then went, yeah, that connection and doing something that's bigger than yourself. I was definitely chasing dopamine, and that's what it was. It is an addiction. Climbing mountains, a lot of mountaineers, they roll the dice too long. They don't come home. They keep on pushing themselves, for glory, for the summit and all these things, or people are just pushing themselves, whether it's in work or ultra marathons, and they're not actually doing that sort of deep work and going, what am I actually running away from? Why do I need this? Like, why do I not feel like whole? And the same can be said, people will drink themselves into oblivion, or drugs, or whatever the vice is. It is, to your point, still a vice. And then sort of got to that point, I'm like, I can have a big, small life where I can surround myself with a group of really good people, build that community, help support them to do the things that they want to do, And then also, I guess just sort of be in one place instead of always traveling and feeling kind of homeless. So, it's been a big transition the last year. It's a hard question to answer.
Yeah, but no, I hear it, and it's sort of going out doing amazing things, and then bringing it back down to belonging and community that you don't have to travel too far for.
Yeah, it's funny. You sort of travel and run away to try and find it, and you do learn a lot in the process. I think travel is really important. Obviously, not everyone, it's not available to everyone, but you learn to see the world definitely through a different lens and a lot of empathy as well, understanding different people, different cultures. But then you come back and it's like, what is content? Well, it's like you sort of build that community. And going back to what we were saying earlier, it's like, you might have a mate or an acquaintance who's like, I never realised that climbing mountains or going for big runs might actually inspire people to do something, whether it's start a business or, do a marathon or decide to give up smoking or something or eat better. And for me, I'm just like, well, fuck, that's cool. How can I help you? And that's content to me. It's like, how can you help people do cool stuff? Like, that's a good way to spend your life, I think.
Linking back into Movember, how did you get involved with supporting them? You're a Movember ambassador?
Yeah. So for the year, it was never really tried to be aligned to any one organisation. I actually happened to know Kingy. So there's a sort of a personal connection through Movember, which was great. And then sort of had a few mates kind of go through some dark patches, and it sort of made sense to kind of link up with them. But I guess for me, it was never meant to be sort of one specific organisation. It was more a mental health advocate, but they just sort of got around it and went, shit, this is a cool idea. Like, think big, buy the ticket, figure it out. And I think a lot of blokes, sometimes we don't think before we act. So that's quite a relatable feature, I think, for guys. And they just got behind that. So it also, I guess, provided a platform, enabled me to meet some really cool people. Their ambassadors are kick-ass. Obviously met yourself through that as well, Matt. So it just opened a lot of doors to kind of, I guess, have a bit of a yarn at the end of the day.
Love it. And you had a target to raise some funds. How did you get on with that?
Yeah, so we're sort of sitting all in about, I'm trying to think what the exact target was, 250. So we are 20% of the way. However, we've got to wait until next November to get it paid in and then start doing it again, because obviously the broken wrist didn't help things. So, frustrating as that is, just sort of building and then talking to more companies and then individuals who want to jump on board and spread the word. But, at the end of the day, money's great, but having a conversation's even better for us.
It's something to work towards, right? And
correct.
Do you have to pay more for insurance this time round, or how does that work? Or do you get 20% off discount for doing it again within a certain window?
Thankfully, the people on the Nepalese side have been great. They've rolled over permits. They've rolled over all sorts of things. Obviously, to do drone footage is quite costly. Climbing a mountain's quite costly in terms of a permit. So, our cost base is massively low, but we do have to get brand new insurance.
Right. Yeah.
And mountaineering insurance is not cheap. It's very expensive.
This is all really interesting stuff, but I wanted to talk about the challenge that you've teed up for between now and then. What did you call it? New Zealand, the New Zealand Triathlon.
Yeah, the New Zealand Triathlon. So, sort of Shell, who I was talking about earlier, who I met while filming some stuff for Movember, and then I put him through his paces on Mount Aspiring, and a big shout out to Shell for absolutely smashing it. He didn't complain once. I made him sleep in a cave. I made him sleep in a hut. I literally made him climb a mountain. So the great guy that he is, I thought, geez, what are we going to do next? I said, let's do a triathlon. And he said yes. And he said yes before he really understood the actual size of the triathlon. So we're thinking about, we're not thinking about, we're going to bike the North Island down the TA, which is 1,400 kilometres, and then we're going to jump in a kayak in Wellington, and we're going to kayak across Cook Strait to Picton, and then we're going to run from Picton to Bluff down the South Island version of the TA, which is about 1,600 kilometres. And along the way we're going to sort of film it and do a bit of a daily update about how we're feeling, which I can imagine is probably going to be pretty shit.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to come meet you with the Yarnsmobile and fuel you up along the way, mate. That's it's just such a fascinating. You've got many fascinating yarns. I really love that mindset of book the ticket and figure it out.
Yeah, there's so many excuses not to do things, like the things that could go wrong. But to give a bit of context, I actually met a bloke, I've forgotten his name actually. He lives in Wanaka now, he's from Finland, and we met him while we were climbing Mount Aspiring, and he actually inspired us to, he inspired me, and by default has inspired Shell, who's obviously helping out with the triathlon, to do the kayak portion. So if you think kayaking across the Cook Strait is unhinged, he did a stand-up paddleboard across it and didn't bloody tell anyone.
Fucking hell.
And so it sort of goes back to what I was saying. There's always an excuse. There's always someone bigger, stronger, better, smarter. Fuck it. Just buy the ticket and figure it out.
Oh, what a great yarn, mate. Thank you so much for coming into the High Tech podcast, and wish you well and hope we can continue the yarns.
Cheers, mate. Anytime, and looking forward to seeing the Yarnsmobile out and about.